Radio has taken me all over the country and into and out of a number of crazy situations. Now, I tell you this so we can have okay, let's see what we have next. Yeah, so one of the other things I do, in addition to radio and sales and a number of side endeavors, is DJ. It's something that I've always done throughout my childhood up until today. And it's something that I really enjoy doing, whether it be in clubs or doing an event for people. It's a great hobby and you make a lot of money. Now, in a lot of the cities that I've lived in, I've also DJ'd on the side there, one of them being Kansas, the most recent city that I lived in prior to me coming to Texas. And there are a lot of DJs there. There are people, I would say, that DJ, and I would say there are people that play clubs, but I wouldn't say there are people that make money. I think in Kansas or Wichita specifically where I lived, I think all the money is in the promoting. There's a lot of DJs that I know that have a lot of great gear. They don't have great skills so much, but they pay for a lot of the top shelf gear. You know, they're almost gearheads, and they really don't charge much for events. I've seen DJs charge as much as $175 for a 5-hour wedding, including ceremony. That's about 10% of what it actually costs. But I've also seen promoters take advantage of that, whereas they book the party and they pay the DJ whatever, $150, and they keep the rest for themselves. There was actually a situation where I was working kind of with a promoter just to get out of the house because of COVID. And I did a couple of his events, just, you know, little things here and there. And I remember where he was like, okay, man, I'll just take care of you. I'll Venmo you like $50 or whatever. And I was like, really? That's it? Are you kidding me? You know, almost got into a fight with him. But then I realized, you know what? This is what these guys do. I mean, you get what you pay for. A lot of these DJs just play Spotify playlists. They're not really quote-unquote DJing, or what they like to say there, beat mixing, or, you know, it's kind of a big buzzword there. But, yeah, I mean, there was, you know, if you're really a decent DJ and you have your business in order, you can actually crush there. Okay, let's see what's next. Yeah, so I DJ a lot. And some of the other towns and some of the other states that I've DJ'd in include Connecticut. And it's, you know, if you're from the East Coast, Connecticut is right by New York City. And a lot of the rich people that do business in New York City live in Connecticut. Places like New Canaan, places like Greenwich. A lot of stars live there. And there's also a working class part of Connecticut, kind of like the northwest part of Connecticut is a little bit more working class. But where I've DJ'd are for the rich people. New Canaan, Greenwich, Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut, hotels there, lounges there, private mansion parties there. Again, anything, you know, any place you would like to play, you definitely have to understand what the game is there. And the game in Connecticut is who you know. So it's not necessarily you knowing any of the rich people, but knowing the promoters that can get to the rich people, or the promoters that could put you into a club that will get you to the rich people. I was lucky. I was doing some radio in Connecticut. So some of the people that I worked with there were in radio that also, like myself, did DJing on the side. So we would flip-flop parties from time to time and give each other leads. I also was hooked up with a promoter that did all the Barcelonas, which are lounges. They're tapas lounges. And he did them all the way up until Boston. So I played a lot of those lounges and was able to get to some of this clientele that are just, they don't understand the concept of money. One of the great things about playing in Connecticut as well is, they really like their gangster hip hop. Now, I'm originally from New York, and I've played in New York, I played in the city, I've played everywhere. But I've never been in a situation where I would have to play really gutter gangster hip hop than in Connecticut. I mean, a lot of these remixes, back then, lean back remixes, How We Do, The Game, and 50 Cent, Pete Rock, CL Smooth, stuff like that, where, you're playing either to an ultra hip crowd in New York City, or you're playing in your living room, or it's on your iPad. I mean, you're not playing it in a club, but in Connecticut, I was able to play all of that stuff, man. They loved it. I don't understand what it is. We figured it out. Me and a couple of other DJs figured out that it's just the whiff of danger for these people in Connecticut, especially the rich people who never been to the hood, never been to the ghetto. Everything is really segregated there. I think Bridgeport is like the only place where it's really rough street ghetto. Also, I believe parts of New Haven are like that as well, where it's just crazy gang related. But there are no white people there. So the white people just kind of, it's kind of it seems to me like the allure of danger was always something that they enjoyed. And every club that I've played in, whether it be a really nice bar taco, place where everyone's wearing, flip-flops and it's very laid back and high end, dude, they love it. They want to hear, the Locks. They want to hear Biggie, like gangster Biggie, not Hypnotize. They want to hear Who Shot Ya, stuff like that. So it was a very interesting dynamic, and I had a lot of fun playing in Connecticut. Okay, let's see what's next. DJing in New Jersey, yes. New Jersey's a very different cross-section of people. North Jersey, you have a little bit of that New York there. Of course, you've seen The Sopranos. That's kind of North Jersey, where they're kind of connected a little bit to New York. South Jersey has a little bit of Philly influence there. Central Jersey are just a bunch of drunks. I mean, there's a rich, part of it. I mean, places like Colts Neck or places like Rumson or, like the Shore area, Monmouth County area, very, very rich, where Bruce Springsteen is from. But it's a very laid back place where a lot of people drink, girls are a little bit easy. At least that's how it was way back when I used to play in New Jersey. I wouldn't say easy in that sense. Girls were a little bit more friendly, They didn't have the attitudes that you would have in New York City. Whether you wind up dating or hooking up with them, that's, it's just like any other place. But they were very friendly. And it was a lot more fun, like a more fun college environment New Jersey was. Some of the places that I played in New Jersey were just like that. I mean, there were some really almost like regular bars that had a DJ that you would just play top 40 to. Then there were some cool, bars right by the water where you can play a little bit of disco and play a little bit of house, depending on your situation. for me, just coming from the radio side, I kind of knew what the hits were. So a lot of the places that I would play, I would really build it up, because there's, you know, they're few and far between. On the level that I was playing, there was probably about 2 or 3 other guys that can do what I was doing. And then you have the huge moat and the, you know, rock star DJs, which we were not doing that. Like DJ Boris, guys like Nikki Sibilia, you know, like huge house DJs that play with Tiesto. I mean, that's kind of, and there's like a huge, you know, moat between that, you know. Places like Joey Harrison's Surf Club, that's where those big time DJs would play, you know. Every once in a while, Jenkinson's. Every once in a while now, Bar A, which has become a huge place. And, of course, they play in Atlantic City. So those guys aren't going to be playing the smaller places. That's kind of where I was, you know, a part-time DJ. And a lot of people in my era of what we were trying to do would be. So it's a good starter place to start. It's pretty easy to get gigs. You don't really get paid a lot for them. I even played a lot of Hoboken, and it really wasn't that much. I mean, it was decent. It was whatever, $300 a gig or whatever. But in reality, if you really want to get your confidence up as a DJ playing live, New Jersey would probably be a great place to go, and just play for a while, because the competition level is very, very low in that arena. Okay, let's see what's next. How to DJ an event when the music is foreign. Okay, yeah. You know, that's something that I've had to deal with over the course of the years. Realistically, it comes down to how you view music. If you're really into music, or you're just really into money. I mean, I'm kind of really into music. I like listening to music. I like history, and you know, so even understanding the foreign music that's being played, whether you like it or not, just understanding where it comes from and why people enjoy it, that's kind of what makes me a programmer, and that's kind of how I handle those situations, if that makes any sense. You know, so down here, cumbia is a huge format to play. A lot of people love cumbia music. A lot of people love Tejano music with Selena. We're not far from Mexico. We're only about 3 hours from Mexico. For me to push back on this type of music would be a mistake. I'd be leaving money on the table. Now, understanding where the music comes from and understanding how it is, you know, I kind of like it a little bit, you know, after a while. And then you realize, you know, this is pretty cool music, you know, even though I'm not familiar with it. But it's a big deal in the community down here. So I do get a lot of gigs that people ask about cumbia music, you know, because for some reason I'm able to deal with songs that I've never heard before, but just understanding how they all fit together in the mosaic of putting together a set. Bollywood music is the same thing. I mean, one thing I realized from Bollywood music is that West Indian, which is Jamaican, comes from that same area. So if you really like dance hall music, dance hall reggae, it all comes from Bollywood music. That's something that I learned down the road. And then I got excited because I know dancehall really well. I know reggae really well. And just playing a Bollywood party was like so easy because you understood where that music came from. And they loved it too, exactly, because, you know, it's their music, not many people know it. And, you know, when you play a party that they know you're actually playing, as opposed to copying and pasting some type of format and not having an understanding of where that music comes from, it really comes out in your set. So, I would probably say if you're a musician DJ, a DJ that really enjoys music, listen to different types of music and understand where they come from. And then you can deal with it when you play it. I don't think you would be pigeonholed. You will just make a lot more money. Okay, let's see what's next. DJing in New York City. Ah, man. Yeah, that's where I'm from. I could probably do about 8 videos on this. There's so many different ways to make money in New York City, and there's a ton of competition. So, can you make money? Yes. Will you make money? Possibly. It all depends on what type of DJ you'd like to be. If you want to be a radio DJ, there's an opportunity to do that, but it's extremely competitive. You do make a lot of money if you're on the radio because you can promote your events and guarantee top dollar, $5,000 a DJ set, but there is a ton of competition there and a ton of people you have to pay off, and you have to be in a specific circle. So if you're a hip hop DJ, and you're coming from Queensbridge, you have to somehow be involved with like Nas's people or whatever group is there to kind of come up through that. If you're a party DJ that just wants to do weddings, there's a ton of those types of places that do that as well, and it's very competitive as well. So whether it's a situation where you have to get with a smaller type of wedding event company and work your way up, or, negotiate your way to one of these big type of event companies. There's all different ways that you can make money in New York City. You can even make money not even making money. Playing little bars in the Upper East Side, Lower East Side for like $2.50 a pop. I've done that, in the beginning, especially when I was in radio in New York City, just trying to make extra money. You can do that. But, all the promoters are huge. All the, any of the radio people or the radio DJs that mix live on the radio in New York City are huge, but they all have a story. They're all coming from someplace. For you to play places like Cielo, which is, a huge club in the meatpacking district, or at least it was back then. I'm sure there's different clubs right now because clubs turn over all the time. But at least hooking up with like these big time promoters, that's pretty much the game to make like money in New York. But it's not just New York you're going to be making money in, especially if you're dealing with those type of big time promoters. You're dealing with New York, you're dealing with Miami, you're probably dealing with overseas. New York is the big time. So if your career is to be a DJ and that's what you want to do and that's it, nothing else, kind of makes sense to move to New York City and start there. Okay, let's see what's next. Would you compete in a slap fighting competition? I will say I like to be nonviolent. I like to be a little bit more rational and diplomatic when dealing with problems. But if there were a couple of conditions, I'd probably do it. One of those conditions being if it was a family member that really annoyed the crap out of me, like someone who over the course of years, childhood, has always tried to bait me into stuff. Yes, I'd love to get into a slap fighting competition with that particular person because that particular person will lose. Usually people like that are kind of wusses. So that's my perspective. If there were another condition, would be if it was someone that I was beefing with in the radio industry, which is pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's very petty, high school BS stuff that exists. You know, you're dealing with people with big time egos, including yourself. And it's very competitive. And there are some people that, you know, on the back of my mind, if I ever had a chance to slap, even if I would take a shot myself, I would love to do it. Probably the third condition would be if it was any jerk that I encountered in my life. So maybe it was a boss of a crappy job that I hated. Maybe it was, you know, someone who just said stupid things to you. A quote-unquote friend that really wasn't a friend. Yeah, I mean, I harbor a lot of bitterness. And I probably, under those conditions, would engage in a slap fighting competition. Doesn't make me a bad guy, though. Okay, let's see what's next. Why do Met fans hate Yankee fans? Now, the first thing you should probably know before I get into this is that the word hate, in New York City, that's usually how it goes down. There's no like dislike or maybe we don't see eye to eye. It's like love or hate. I mean, it's like black or white. I mean, New Yorkers are extremely passionate and are extremely competitive. So when you hear hate, that doesn't mean we wish death on them, but it's definitely hate. It's nothing more than that. If there are Yankee fans in a bar where Met fans are partying, there's probably going to be a fight. I've been in those situations where there was fights between Met fans and Yankee fans. Why does this happen? There's a number of different reasons. I mean, but the distinct ones are, you know, the working class and the elitists. So you look at the Yankees, up until this year, I mean, now the Mets are under new ownership and now they're spending money. So who knows, 5-10 years down the road, that could probably change. But up until that happened, the working class team of regular people, the underdog, that was the Mets in Queens. They're in Queens, a lot of working class people in Queens. You know, the Brooklyn Dodgers, they used to be in Brooklyn. They were like a local neighborhood team. That a lot of those aspects of the Brooklyn Dodgers came to the New York Mets. Whereas the Yankees were all about, in the very beginning, about stars. That's it. They pay big money to get the best players. They make all the money to get the best players over history. Outside of maybe the small, 3-4 year period that CBS owned them in the 60s. Over the course of history, I mean, you're talking about 27 world championships. And in baseball, where it's kind of uneven the way money and the salary cap and players are distributed as opposed to other leagues, Yankees always been able to make their big-time payroll work and translate that into winning championships. So there's always a hatred because you feel like working class hates the elitists, the people on Wall Street that have trillions of dollars that kind of look down on them. So that's kind of where that hatred comes from. There's also Queens against the Bronx. The Bronx, that's where the Yankees play. It's kind of funny and ironic in New York that the New York Yankees, which are probably one of maybe the top 3 most valuable sports teams in the world, are based in a brand new stadium right in the middle of the street ghetto of the South Bronx. and they have nothing to do with bringing that area back. That's kind of what New York is. As far as, you know, class competition, underdog versus the favorite, yeah, I mean, that all comes into play. The fact that New Yorkers are all about winning, and if you have two New York teams going up against each other, it's just a competitive thing. But I can never see myself, and I've probably been to more Yankee games, that, you know, being from the Bronx, growing up in the Bronx. I'm originally from Queens. I've been to more Yankee games than Met games, but there is no way I could have ever seen myself rooting for a team like the New York Yankees. Okay, let's see what's next. Sweet and Vicious, have you heard? Okay, I was a little confused about this because I'm a little bit older, but apparently they're not talking about a bar that's in the Nolita section of Manhattan, which was a great place for craft cocktails and really good hip-hop DJs, Sweet and Vicious. That's a place I thought they were talking about. I thought maybe that bar burned down, or maybe someone got stabbed in there, or something happened. But apparently, that is, after doing some research, Sweet and Vicious is a TV show on MTV. It came out in 2016. And after seeing a couple of episodes, I think it's actually a funny TV show about two girls beating the crap out of guys that would take advantage of them in college. And the way that it was done, I don't know if I would see the entire season, but apparently it's kind of a cult following, that TV show. Okay, let's see what's next. Is violence the answer? That's a good question. Is violence the answer? Only if the antagonist is real stupid, then violence is the answer. You know, I mean, it's a great thought-provoking idea. It's something I thought about today, as a matter of fact, while I was sitting for 20 minutes in the drive-through window at Dunkin' Donuts waiting for an iced coffee, trying to figure out, how the hell am I sitting for 20 minutes waiting for something that could be done in about 2 seconds? So while I was thinking about that, I also was rationalizing in a way to not get myself angry over this. You know, maybe they have a different mix. Maybe they have to brew new coffee. You know, all those things really come into play. And that really helped me not get angry while I was sitting there, which in the past I would have really got under my skin. So she came out with the iced coffee and I was fine, and I just drove off. You know, that's normally how everything happens in my life, except when you're dealing with someone who is really stupid. Now, the reason why I say that is because if you're not able to rationalize something with somebody, the only thing they really understand is force. I mean, that's usually what happens. When you're dealing with someone who's really drunk and he keeps calling you a racial slur or some stupid slur or just being a jerk to you, regardless of you trying to not get involved, sometimes violence is the answer. Sometimes that person needs to get punched in the face. I mean, that's just how it works. Sometimes someone who is too stupid to be cordial to you needs to get punched in the face to understand that that is not how you treat people. I mean, it's reality. Not everybody. Every once in a while, you come along somebody who's, whether he was sheltered or whether he was, let to, allowed to get away with bad etiquette. It is up to you to make sure his etiquette changes. And that's kind of how I rationalize punching someone in the face if they were stupid. Okay, let's see what's next. How to trigger a millennial. Well, apparently, I guess that's a big thing on YouTube. But not being a millennial, I got confused on what this actually is. What it actually is playing a clip of an R&B or a hit song, like playing about 4 seconds of the clip and then walking away. I think that's what's triggering millennials.
How to trigger millennials.
Or a movie that you like, just playing like an intro and then walking away, which makes no sense. But then again, there's a lot of things that don't make any sense that are on YouTube, or at least to someone that's not a millennial or Gen Z. I thought it was triggering a millennial, like getting them angry. So I felt calling a millennial will trigger them. Saying to them, you caused this, triggers them. Telling them, move out of your house. You live with mom, you're like 40. Like, get your own place. That would trigger them. Your taste in music is terrible. That would trigger a millennial. All you care about is snap face. That would really piss off a millennial, especially millennial women. But that's not it. So it's this, playing half of, a Casey and JoJo intro from like 1998 and then walking away. Which is why I'm kind of glad I'm not a millennial right now.